Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Correcting and Crime Daily, the show where I, your host, Rebecca, recap live trials. Trying out a new microphone today. Let's, fingers crossed, I'm going back to the old way of filming where you can see what I'm working on. I'll show you. I've got the top couple of rows done in this very large painting. I've still got a lot to go, but here it is. The secret garden. Look at the little squirrel and her face. I changed her eye color. You can barely tell. Changed it to blue instead of whatever it was. I don't know. I changed it to blue. In any case, welcome back. There is a trial that is picking a jury today, and that is the trial of Scott Peterson down in Miami for, well, not Miami, Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale. That whole area. I used to live there. So yeah, they're in Broward County picking a jury for Scott Peterson. He was the school resource officer that was present during the Nicholas Cruz shooting on Valentine's Day 2018, where 17 people were killed, 3 adults, 14 students, and 17 others were severely injured. So he's accused of hiding. He was allegedly the only person on the campus at the time these shootings occurred that was armed and could have gone in there. Instead, a coach and another teacher, they're there. They're trying their best to, help out with this shooting, and he does nothing. So he is charged with 7 counts of child neglect. Now, I wondered why 7. He was charged because after his involvement, the shooting on the 3rd floor occurred where there were 6 people that died on the 3rd floor. So it has something to do with the timing of the deaths, I guess. We're going to find out when we actually hear the opening statements. So hopefully that will be tomorrow. But today we're going to talk about Lucy Letby again. I said to my friend, what am I going to talk about this week? And she's like, finish Lucy Letby. Well, she was still on the stand. I did the defense examination, her attorney's examination of her direct evidence, her testimony. I wasn't me. I didn't do any of it. I didn't commit any of these murders. I didn't injure any babies. I only ever did my best. Not entirely credible, especially after what you're going to hear today, because then the prosecution got to cross-examine her. The first question out of the prosecution's mouth was, hey, is there any reason why you cry when you're talking about yourself, but you don't cry when you're talking about any of these babies you murdered or severely injured? She goes, I have cried. I have cried about the babies. Very impactful opening question, I might add. And this is the first time this prosecutor has had an opportunity to ask Lucy Letby any questions. She was interrogated by police, but not him. So the first thing he does after this question is he shows her defense statement. So apparently over in Europe, you give a defense statement when you're accused of something, and then they can go back and use that statement against you. So he says, you started, because she had been on direct testimony by her, or direct examination by her attorney for 5 days. I condensed it down to 30 minutes. But she was there for 5 days. I just gave you the highlights. So after 5 days, he says, is there anything you would like to change in this statement or in the 5 days of testimony that you gave? And she goes, I don't know. I don't think so. No. So the first thing he talked about was, as you recall, one of the infants, when they started to catch on to thinking it might be her, one of the designated nurses, leaves the nursery and goes on her break. And she tells Dr. J. Ram, who is at the nurse's station. And when he finds out that Lucy Letby is the person that is watching this infant, he's a little concerned because they have their suspicions about Lucy Letby. So he says, he said it was nagging on him, so he decides he's going to get up, he's going to go in, and when he enters the room, Lucy Letby is standing over the baby's cot. Well, Lucy said that never happened during her direct examination. She said, no, that did not happen. He didn't come in on me. I wasn't in there. I was off feeding another baby in another room. And so the prosecutor's like, you never said that in your defense statement. And you never said that when you talked to the police. And when your attorney cross-examined Dr. J-Ram when he was on the stand, this never came up, that you weren't even there. She goes, well, it's been 7 months of testimony. I can't remember all the testimony. This is the first prosecutors heard the day before was that you weren't even there. He never said that. So then he goes about and he lists 19 different doctors that were involved in the care of these babies. And he asked her about each one of them. What was your relationship with, Dr. A, Dr. B, or, whatever their names were. And he goes through all 19, and with the exception of one, and we'll talk about that one. No, they were all work colleagues. There was no relationship outside of the workplace with any of these doctors, except Dr. A. He says, were you in love with Dr. A? Now, Dr. A is the one that took the stand earlier in the trial. And when he did, Lucy was so upset that she got up and left the defense table and left the courtroom. And they had to go after her and bring her back and calm her down. And she says, no, we were just friends. But the rumors were that they were romantically involved. But she's like, no, we were just friends outside of the workplace. Okay. Then she named 4 doctors that were within this consultant group. And I'm not going to name the doctors because I don't believe what she's saying. I think she's grasping for straws at this point. She names 4 doctors and said, they were ganging up on me. That they're all making this up. That what did she say? They're out to get her, and they're conspiring to blame her, to apportion blame to her. That this is all a conspiracy. So the prosecutor said, "Oh, let's call them the Gang of 4." Yeah, she is reaching for straws during this defense. I got to tell you. So he talked to her about, there was evidence earlier in the trial that prosecutor presented of the staffing. They created this huge, PowerPoint, whatever it was, of the staffing patterns and all the nurses on this unit during all these months that this was going on. And Lucy Letby was the only nurse on shift for every one of these babies' collapses, every one of them. And her response to that was, just because I was working doesn't mean I'm the one that did it. And he was trying to get her to agree. You would agree with me that, that kind of that points to you, doesn't it? And she's like, no, it doesn't mean that I was the one that did this. Maybe not, but come on. It's pretty. Then he said, then it had to be more than one nurse. She's like, I'm not saying it was anybody. I don't know who did it. It wasn't me. So then they started talking about the insulin, because several of the different ways she's been accused of murder and injury is through insulin injection and air injection, either into the NG tube or into the IV line, and the insulin in the IV tube. So he said, would you agree with me that they found insulin in baby L's body that should not have been there? And she says, I agree with you that this baby got insulin that the baby should not have gotten. But I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Does that Can you hear when I touch myself and the mic? I'll listen back on the playback because maybe I don't need to be doing that. Sorry about, I'm just trying to get the sound so that this is an enjoyable experience for you guys to listen to. I don't want you to have to struggle to hear me. Okay, so then the prosecutor asked her about the 257 handover notes that they found either in her home or her mother's home. And she said, listen, I told you I made a mistake. They have no meaning to me. I just would accidentally bring them home in the pocket of my scrubs. But she never threw them away. They were found in a garbage bag in her garage. Then he says, well, what about the one handover sheet? And a handover sheet is where when you're handing off to another nurse, she's taking notes about she's giving you a report of what she's done during her shift, and you're taking notes so that you can deliver care during your shift. And you have those notes in your pockets, like maybe they talked to the mom at such and such a time, or the mom said she's coming in at 9 p.m. to feed the baby the breast milk. Don't feed, hold off the feeding till she gets there because she's going to have the breast milk. Something like that you need on your notes. Well, she would take these home and she saved them. So he says, well, what about the handover note that we found in a keepsake box, that had roses decorating it? What was the significance of that? And it was dated June 1st, 2010, which happened to be her first day of working as a nursing student in the Chester Hospital, Countess of Chester Hospital in Chester, England. And she said, and this apparently was in pristine condition, this note. She said, it didn't have any meaning to me. These notes had no meaning to me. I agree with you, they were private information, and I kept that information private. No one has access to my home but me. He goes, well, what about the ones we found in your parents' house? Well, they were in my room. My parents don't go into my room. Okay, they have no meaning at all to her. She was not keeping them as souvenirs. Then the prosecutor walked her through each and every baby and the allegations with respect to each and every baby. So on baby A, this was a baby she was accused of injecting with air. Baby A and B were twins. So she's accused of doing the same thing to baby A and baby B. Baby A died, baby B survived. But she said the reason for baby A's collapse was staffing shortages. She says there was a 4-hour delay in getting baby A the fluid that he needed because of staffing shortages. And that's what she said was probably the cause of his collapse. She does admit that she helped another nurse set up his IV fluids, but that doesn't mean that I injected air in there, because I did not. And she denies seeing any rash on the baby. Now, there's been testimony that this baby had a rash, a very unusual rash that they had never seen before. She said, nope, I didn't see it. The baby was pale. I didn't see a rash. Same thing with baby B. Baby B was a little mottled. Mottling is when you see a baby when a baby gets cold, they have kind of a blue-gray look to them when they're cold, because they can't regulate their temperature very well. You call that mottling. And she said that what I saw was typical mottling that you would see, that you've seen in a lot of babies. We saw it in baby B. Now, according to the designated nurse, she had gone on a break when baby B collapsed. And when she was returning from her break, or she collapsed shortly after she returned from her break, something like that. But the nurse testified that Lucy was the one that alerted her to this baby's collapse. Well, Lucy said, no, that's not what I recall. I recall her alerting me that the baby had collapsed. I wasn't there. I was called in to help by her. That's what I remember. So you're saying she's wrong? Yeah, she's potentially wrong. So she, of course, denied injecting baby D with any air. In fact, she did not accept that either baby had injected with air. She goes, I don't think that's what. No, I'm denying it. No, I didn't put any air in either of these babies, and I don't think anybody else did. She admitted, though, that she had the opportunity and the access to both of those babies right before they collapsed. But she didn't do it. She could have, but she didn't do it. Okay. Are you following me? Then with baby C, she's accused of putting air into the NG tube. Now, on this case, the designated nurse came back from a break and said she saw Lucy Letby standing at this baby's cot. And Lucy says, no, I don't have any memory of that. Mm-mm. She said that the nurse called her to come help. She was assigned to a different nursery that night, and she admitted to the prosecutor, yeah, I was not happy about this. I was very mad at the charge nurse, the nurse that made the assignments, because I wanted to go back into the, room 1, which is where you take care of the sickest babies, because I needed to get over the death of baby A. And the best way for me to get over taking care, having a baby that died while I was taking care of it, is to just jump right back in there, get back on the horse, that kind of thing. That's what they taught us in nursing school. But no, they wanted me to work over in the nursery, with the babies that weren't so much of a challenge, and I needed to be back in there. So she was texting her friend about this, and her friend was like, well, maybe you didn't need to be back in there. And she's like, well, I'm going to go pop over into there. And she would go back and forth and back over to the C. Well, baby C. Anyway. So then, after baby C passes away, she kept going, well, the baby hadn't passed away. The parents of baby C withdrew resuscitation, but the baby was still alive, but they knew that the baby was not going to survive. So they put the parents in the room with the baby to bond with it before it passed away. Well, Lucy kept going in and out of the room. This is what the testimony has been, that Lucy kept going in and out of this room. I don't know why, but at one point the parents say she comes into the room with the bassinet or the cot and says, okay, you've said your goodbyes. Let me take the baby now. And they're like, the baby was still alive. They're like, no, we're going to stay with our baby until the baby passes away. And the charge nurse had to ask her to leave that room, to stop going in there. She said, no, that never happened. I remember maybe going in there, but I don't remember charge nurse telling me I couldn't go in there and to stay out of there. No, I don't remember that. Doesn't remember saying that to the parents. I could have said it, but I don't remember saying it. Not in that I'm being very dramatic. I don't think she was. I hope she wasn't being that dramatic when she gave her answers. But I think I'm saying it that way because I don't believe her. It's just not believable. And you'll find out why coming up here soon. So then he goes on to baby D, who was a full-term baby that they discovered had pneumonia. This baby died. The medical examiner said, yes, this baby had pneumonia, but that's not what killed this baby. Air injected into this baby's bloodstream is what killed this baby. Also, during time that the designated nurse had stepped out of the unit. Now, she had previously told police during their interview of her that she had very little memory of baby D. But then she did agree with the prosecution that she had helped the designated nurse, prior to her going on a break, set up the IV fluid. But she thought staffing was the issue on this particular night. Now, the prosecutor insinuated that in this case, she had falsified the medical records to make it look like she was actually taking care of another baby in another room when baby D collapsed. And she's like, no, I never falsified a record. Didn't happen. Then they talked about baby E, and she claimed that it was medical incompetence that could have played a part in this baby's death. That this baby needed a blood transfusion. This is where the testimony is that she stuck some kind of object down the baby's throat, causing the baby to bleed. This is where the mom came in at around 9 and heard the baby screaming, and she asked Lucy, why does my baby have blood in his mouth? And Lucy told her, oh, it's the NG tube rubbing on the back of her throat, and I'll take care of it. You go on back to your unit. So when Lucy said it was the doctors failing to give this baby a blood transfusion, when the prosecutor said, oh, wait a minute, they can only act on what you tell them, right? And she says, well, yeah. And you didn't tell them that baby was bleeding until after 10 o'clock. Mom said that baby was bleeding at 9 o'clock. She goes, no, that's not true. Baby was not bleeding at 9 o'clock when the mom was there. It's not true. It was after 10 o'clock. And she did notify the doctors right away. And the doctors then delayed ordering blood transfusion. And the baby collapsed after 11 o'clock and passed away. Yeah. She thought that the doctor should have given the blood sooner. And then she makes this weird comment about how the sinks in the room 1, where the most intensive care was going on of these babies, had sinks that were overflowing with sewage onto the floor to the point where nurses could not properly wash their hands. But she doesn't think that had anything to do with any of these babies' deaths. I guess she just thought she'd mention it. I don't know. That's weird. Okay. Also in that same case, she denied, because in the medical record around the time, around 10 o'clock, there's another nurse that does the baby E's observations. And he says, didn't you have this other nurse go make those observations so you'd have her name on the record around the time of this baby's collapse? No. No, that never happened. No. Baby E and F were twins, and baby F survived. But she was accused of looking up baby E and F's mother on Facebook 9 times over the next few months, including Christmas Day. And he said, why were you looking up this mother on Christmas Day? And she says, I just wanted to see how baby F was doing. And he says, this is what was on your mind on Christmas Day? To see how this baby who died months ago whose baby's twin died months ago? Yeah, it was on my mind. Then he talks about baby G, who was alleged to have been overfed. The baby was very, very premature, born in the toilet. They fished him out. And then on day 100 of life, and then again on the baby's due date, the baby had collapses when Lucy was on shift. She was accused of falsifying the records in that case as well to deflect attention away from herself. She says, no, I have never falsified any records. She denied inserting anything into the baby's airway. That didn't happen. This was the same baby that she said she found behind a privacy screen on this procedure table, left off the monitor. Now, the doctor's testimony prior to this point in time was that they had left the baby that way, but they had told Lucy, who was in the room with another baby, can you please go take care of this baby? And that doctors will do that. They'll be like, hey, I'm done. Can you clean up here? No, they never asked me to do that. No, I found that baby that way. Okay. Then with baby H, she said there was a delay in administering the baby's medication that needed to go into his lungs. It was they didn't say, but I'm guessing it was surfactant, which in premature babies, the doctors will put some of that medicine in the lung to help the lungs mature. Or at least in my time they did. I don't know if they still do it. But anyway, Lucy said she needed to get some medicine into her lungs, and there was a delay in the doctors doing that. And this is the baby that had the 3 chest drains. She said they had to wait to get the equipment, the chest drains, from another hospital that was miles away. So there was a delay in that. And then she said the doctors did not know how to manage this baby. She said it was evident by the way they would talk to each other, giving a report. There was a debate about how to manage this baby. But this is at the point where the prosecutor says, well, isn't it true that every time a nurse would step away or a doctor would step away, a baby would collapse? This was your opportunity to murder or injure a baby. No, that's not true. So then he named each baby where it happened. Baby C, no, baby B, baby C, baby D, baby H, baby I, baby M, baby N, baby O, baby P. All of those babies, something happened to those children when their nurse stepped away or the parent stepped away. So you would wait till they stepped away and then something would happen. No, that's not true. She says, I have never attacked any child. So then he goes on to baby I, who was attacked 3 times. The baby's abdomen was always distended. She's accused of injecting air into the baby's feeding tube. I think on the 4th attempt, the baby did pass away. So this was the one where as she comes back from the break, she tells the designated, as the designated nurse comes back from the break, she tells the designated nurse as she's passing by this dark room, because they had the lights turned down, that baby looks pale. Well, the designated nurse said she should not have been able to see that, because when the designated nurse goes over to the cot and turns the lights up and uncovers the baby, she sees, yes, this baby is in distress. How in the world did Lucy know that from out in the hallway where she's alerting the nurse, hey, I see that baby's kind of pale, you maybe should check on that baby, from the hallway? And so he asked Lucy, do you know what happens to your eyes when you go from a light place to a dark place? Lucy says, no. He says, you're a nurse, you don't know? So at this point, Lucy is becoming very nervous and very agitated. So the judge said, it was getting later on in the day. He's like, we're going to halt the proceedings for the day and resume them. So the proceedings are going to be resumed. So that's where we're leaving off. Now, I have put a lot of testimony, like 2.5 days worth of testimony, condensed. But the bottom line is, she didn't do it. It wasn't her. So I would do the crime calendar for you if I knew what I did with the crime calendar. This crap room is such a wreck. I will find that crime calendar so we have it for tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have an opening statement to listen to tomorrow in the Scott Peterson case. We're going to call it the School Resource Officer case, SRO Parkland case. I don't know. What do you guys think? Anyway, leave a comment down below about the sound, the picture. I know this is the picture you guys wanted, where you can see what I'm working on while I'm talking to you. Although I didn't do anything today. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. I am going to be live tonight at 6:30 p.m. where I do a craft for you other than diamond painting. Maybe tonight. Last week we did adult coloring. I haven't decided what I'm going to do tonight. We'll see. But it'll be at 6:30 p.m. Central. Come join me. I'll see you then. Bye, everybody.